In the early 1800s, England opened its doors to trade with the rest of the world. By accident, the English brought home a plague that turned ordinary people into flesh-hungry zombies. One day, Colonel Darcy, a respected soldier, arrived at her estate after hearing whispers that someone inside had been bitten. The guards checked his identity and led him through a hidden tunnel. A priest examined him carefully for wounds, ensuring he carried no infection. Only then was he admitted inside, where Mrs. Featherstone was hosting friends over a game of cards. She dismissed the rumors, insisting no zombies had ever touched her home. Darcy feigned politeness, joining the game at her table. But then he quietly released a small bottle of black flies, specially bred to detect the scent of rotten flesh. The insects circled the room before landing on one man. Without hesitation, Darcy smashed his glass and drove it into the man's face before drawing his sword and severing his head in one clean stroke. He demanded to know if the man had infected anyone else. Featherstone swore he had not. Darcy believed her, then kicked the severed head across the floor. Featherstone's daughter could no longer keep their secret. She rushed to the guest chambers, where the infected man's niece had been hidden away. It was too late, the girl had already turned. Meanwhile, in another household, Mr. Bennet had long trained his 5 daughters in every form of combat: swords, firearms, knives, and martial arts. They were warriors first and ladies second. But Mrs. Bennet had other concerns. She scolded her husband for teaching the girls to fight, believing marriage, not warfare, should be their priority. When news came of an upcoming dance, Mrs. Bennet convinced her husband to let the girls attend, hoping they might find husbands instead of battles. The daughters dressed in their finest gowns, but beneath the lace and silk, each concealed blades and pistols. At the ball, Mr. Bingley chatted with Darcy until his eyes fell on Jane Bennet. He was immediately enchanted. He asked her to dance, and the two moved gracefully across the floor. Afterwards, Bingley urged Darcy to dance as well and suggested Elizabeth, Jane's sister. But Darcy coldly replied that Elizabeth was tolerable, but not handsome enough to tempt him. Elizabeth overheard and walked away, humiliated, accidentally knocking over a bottle as she left. Outside, she wiped away tears and frustration, only to be startled by Mrs. Featherstone, now fully turned into a zombie. Before she could reveal anything, Darcy appeared and shot her in the head. The gunshot drew attention, and soon more zombies were sighted near the estate. Guards rang the alarm bells as panic spread among the guests. While most fled, the Bennet sisters drew their hidden weapons. In unison, they charged into battle, slashing and stabbing with ruthless precision. Watching Elizabeth fight with ferocity sparked a new feeling in Darcy's chest. When the last body was burned, the sisters returned home. Jane could not stop speaking of Bingley, while Elizabeth angrily recounted Darcy's arrogance, venting her frustration by striking the training dummy harder than ever. Soon, Jane was invited to tea with Bingley. Seizing the opportunity, Mrs. Bennet insisted Jane travel on horseback. If it rained, she argued, Jane might be forced to stay the night. On the road, Jane was attacked. Her horse threw her, her pistol misfired, and she injured her hand. But she fought back with steel, slashing hands, slicing legs, and crushing skulls. Then, as rain poured down, a horrifying sight appeared, a zombie mother carrying her infected child. The next day, Elizabeth visited Jane at Bingley's estate, only to find her bedridden with fever. Darcy, suspicious, released his flies to test her. Elizabeth, unimpressed, caught them all in her bare hands and crushed them with a smirk before tossing them back at him. Darcy did not know whether to be angered or intrigued. That night, Elizabeth secretly watched Darcy train outside, his sword cutting through the air with flawless technique. The Bennets came to collect their daughters the following day. Darcy again clashed with Elizabeth, though his sharp words betrayed hidden fascination. To lighten spirits, Bingley agreed to host a ball. But on the journey home, the sisters discovered the local orphanage destroyed. Soon after, the Bennets met their cousin, Mr. Collins, who would inherit their home upon Mr. Bennet's death. Collins, a bumbling man, served Lady Catherine de Bourgh, a legendary warrior renowned for her victories in the zombie wars. He showed interest in Jane, but Mrs. Bennet pushed Elizabeth on him instead. Later on the road, The
Trouble?
sisters encountered a
Oh,
broken
depressing.
carriage with a woman crying for help. Drawing their weapons, they quickly realized she was a zombie and dispatched her with brutal efficiency. Elizabeth struggled under the weight of their weapons, but Collins merely shoved them back into her arms instead of assisting her. In town, Elizabeth met Lieutenant Wickham, a charming soldier who quickly captured her attention. Wickham confided that he and Darcy despised each other, hinting at old betrayals over money and family. Jealous, Darcy left upon seeing them together. That evening at the ball, Elizabeth danced with Collins, then Darcy. Collins's ridiculous behavior embarrassed her, while Darcy's pride infuriated her. Meanwhile, zombies attacked again, and Elizabeth and Darcy fought side by side, blades cutting through the horde. Elizabeth admitted his skill, but scorned him as a friend. Soon, Bingley was persuaded to leave for London with his family. Jane was heartbroken. Collins then proposed to Elizabeth, demanding she give up her weapons. She refused. Her mother scolded her, but her father supported her, earning Elizabeth's gratitude. One day in the woods, Elizabeth saw four mysterious men in top hats, the legendary for horsemen of the apocalypse, said to herald the end. Later, Wickham revealed a hidden church where a priest fed pig brains to half-turned zombies, keeping them docile. He believed this could be the key to peace. Elizabeth agreed, but Lady Catherine dismissed the idea as foolishness. At Catherine's estate, Elizabeth clashed with Darcy, Wickham, and Catherine herself. Wickham's bitterness deepened, Darcy's feelings grew more complicated, and Elizabeth's distrust of them both festered. Finally, Darcy confessed his love to Elizabeth, proposing marriage. She furiously rejected him, accusing him of tearing Jane and Bingley apart. Their argument exploded into a violent duel inside the manor. Swords, fists, and fury flew.
The advantage is that you know we're designed for him.
Until Elizabeth swore she could never marry him. But later, a letter from Darcy revealed the truth. He had only tried to protect Bingley from Mrs. Bennet's schemes. He had given Wickham money, only to be betrayed. Wickham had even attempted to prey upon Darcy's young sister. Slowly, Elizabeth's hatred began to turn into reluctant respect. The war worsened. Zombies grew organized, as if guided by a leader. Lydia Bennet was kidnapped by Wickham, who had allied himself with the undead. Elizabeth and Jane rode to rescue her, defying their father's orders. At the bridge to London, soldiers prepared explosives to destroy it at dawn, sacrificing the city to protect the nation. On the battlefield, chaos reigned. Elizabeth fought through hordes, saving Darcy from certain death. Together, they battled in a zombie graveyard as corpses clawed their way out of the ground. At the church, Darcy found Lydia chained. Wickham confronted him, revealing his true nature. He was undead, sustained not by hunger but by hatred. Claiming to be the Antichrist, a brutal sword duel followed. Darcy was nearly slain, but Elizabeth intervened, severing Wickham's arm and trampling him beneath her horse. The sisters reached the bridge just as the explosive ignited. Elizabeth was thrown into the ruins, desperately crawling until she found Darcy unconscious. Holding him close, she confessed her love with tears in her eyes. Days later, Jane and Bingley married, as did Elizabeth and Darcy. Collins performed the ceremony. For a brief moment, joy returned. But happiness was short-lived. From the horizon, Wickham reappeared, leading a vast army of the undead straight toward them.